Thank you. Mr. Kelly is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank y'all for being here. And Chairman Milley, I just want to start. I understand the conversation with the Chinese leader. What I don't understand is you going to the press, Chairman Milley, and that disappoints me that you talked to the press about that. None of the other stuff, I think you were, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with you talking to the press or authors. I want to talk just a little bit about Bagram. There's 2 runways at Bagram and only 1 at HK. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So there's strategic value to 2 runways versus 1. You would agree with that?
It's entirely dependent on the mission.
Yeah, and the other thing is there's standoff versus an urban environment, and there are strategic advantages and disadvantages to that. You would agree with that, General McKenzie?
That's correct.
Okay. And I want to talk a little bit about the strike on August the 29th, I think. Who set the rules of engagement? Where were the rules of engagement? At what level?
So under the rules of engagement, and it would need to get into details in a classified setting, we have...
No, I don't want to know what the rules of engagement were. I want to know whose rules of engagement were they?
The U.S. military's rules of engagement.
Was that President Biden's? Was that Secretary Austin's? Was that CENTCOM's?
They are wholly neutral as to the party in power.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the rules of engagement.
And I want to refer to a New York Times article on March 3rd described a policy change of the Biden administration that placed greater restrictions on drone strikes and raids conducted outside conventional battlefield zones. Previously authorized by ground commanders, these operations now require White House approval. Did the strike on August 28th or 29th, the one that killed 10 innocents, did it require presidential approval prior to the strike?
No, it did not.
Okay. At what level, who was the approval authority for that strike?
The target engagement authority was forward in the theater at the over-the-horizon cell that oversees those activities.
At what level? What, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star?
Flag officer level.
Flag officer level. Okay. And at what point, General McKenzie, and this is for all 3 of you, at what point did you know that the strike was bad? That it hit civilians?
Well, so we knew the strike hit civilians within 4 or 5 hours after the strike occurred. And U.S. Central Command released a press release to saying that. We did not know, though, that the target of the strike was in fact in error until a mistake until sometime later. It took us a few days to run that down.
Okay.
But we knew pretty soon after the strike.
Good deal. Secretary Austin, when did you know it was a bad strike that killed civilians?
As soon as General McKenzie reported that there were civilians that had been injured. And
so 4 or 5 hours time frame, that's all I need.
Right. Typically, as soon as that happens, we investigate. We begin an investigation.
When did you know that civilians were killed in that strike? That's my question. It's real easy. It's a time. It's not it doesn't take much to answer that.
Right. Several hours after that.
Okay. Is General Milley same?
Same thing.
Okay. So I'm assuming there's 15-6s at multiple levels that we'll get to see those investigations. There's a lot of questions I have that have to be in a classified environment, but I hope that you guys know I also sit on a different committee that has different insight to this, and I think it's important that we know who authorized at what level and that we take accountability. Listen, I've made strikes. I've lived under rules of engagement. I've had rules of engagement that I liked and didn't like. I've had to make hard decisions. I hope most of them are right, but I understand. I don't want to blame some 06 or some 05. I want to make sure we get the level and that the rules of engagement were proper and that they were followed at whatever level. Who didn't follow those or either wrote those, because I think the strike was done to show we had over the horizon capabilities, and we didn't, because we reported a secondary explosion that was not. We reported all kind of stuff. Now my next question is the other strike. Who did we kill?
I'd prefer to pass you that name in a classified setting.
Okay, can you tell me, was it an HVT or just a low-level terrorist?
I think it was a facilitator, and it was a good strike. I think we got someone who, while not directly involved in the attack on Abbey Gate on the 26th, certainly fell within that circle of accomplishment.
In a classified, I'd like to know that. And then my next question is, I just don't understand. I guess maybe I went to Union Public High School of 1100. My math, 11 to 15,000 U.S. citizens, 5,400 out. that leaves thousands, not hundreds left that want to get out. And I know for a fact, every office here, we had people calling us wanting to get out, U.S. citizens that were not allowed to get in the gate or were kicked off the base or were not allowed out. And with that, I just ask, guys, we got to get our folks home. I yield back.